Dorothy was a very hard-working girl. Her superiors valued and trusted her with the most difficult and responsible projects. One day she was sent on a serious business trip because no one else could handle the complexity of a new project. A new colleague was sent on this trip with Dorothy. Anthony had recently joined their company and was making a good impression. During this business trip, he skillfully complimented Dorothy, treating her with coffee or her favourite sweets. Eventually they became friends, and soon afterward they started dating. Anthony wooed Dorothy beautifully. It was just like in the movies. The girl had no idea that she could arouse such passionate feelings in a man. Every day was different, and the flowers did not have time to fade in the baskets. One day, Anthony invited Dorothy to a restaurant in the evening. The girl came home after work, took a shower, and began to think about what to wear. Something told her that tonight's date would be special, and Dorothy began going through her clothes, taking everything out of the closet. Suddenly the bell rang. A delivery man stood on the doorstep and handed her a large but lightweight box. Dorothy signed for it and opened it curiously. Inside was a beautiful dress. Dorothy pulled it out, and the dress flowed with silver waterfalls of the finest silk. The girl hurried to try it on. Nothing had ever fit her so perfectly. Dorothy arrived at the restaurant on time, and that evening was exceptional and ended with a proposal of marriage. Dorothy left the restaurant as the happiest girl in the world. A month later they got married. It was a magnificent celebration. Many flowers, fine cuisine. In general, everything was at its best. Family life began. Anthony moved into his wife's spacious apartment in the city centre, since before the wedding he had rented an apartment on the outskirts of the city. One day, Dorothy went grocery shopping and noticed a girl about 7 years old at the entrance to the store. She was standing there asking for alms from passers-by. Dorothy could not pass by. Her heart squeezed with pity for the child. She bought her groceries and gave her some money, and then she asked her name and where her parents were. It turned out that the girl's name was Kate. Her mother had died a long time ago, and her stepfather was always drinking and swearing, and making her ask for money to buy him booze. If Kate came back with nothing, she would be beaten. The girl told all this with tears in her eyes, and Dorothy promised to do something to help. In the evening, Dorothy looked forward to Anthony's appearance. She told him about Kate and offered to take her to them. But her husband was horrified by the idea. He believed that such children had many problems because of bad genetics. Dorothy was a little upset. She had always thought that she and Anthony were on the same wave, and that he was a sympathetic and kind man. It was only now that she realized that she didn't know much about the man she was living with. And soon Anthony was transferred to another branch of the company with a promotion, and Dorothy's friend saw him in a coffee shop with another girl. She told Dorothy in great detail how he was stroking her hand and was smiling at her. Dorothy was shocked, and that same evening she asked her husband who he had been with at the cafe. Anthony, without blinking an eye, lied that he had met a colleague with whom he was just having lunch and discussing business matters, and to end the unpleasant conversation, he gently hugged Dorothy. The woman knew that she needed accurate evidence to convict her husband. Therefore, on the advice of her friend, she installed hidden cameras at home, especially since she was supposed to go on a business trip for 4 days. All these days away from home, she was tormented by guilt over her husband, that she did not trust him. But when Dorothy returned from her business trip and watched the cameras, she realized that everything had been for a reason. Her beloved Anthony entertained the blonde in their bedroom, and when she turned her face to the camera, Dorothy, recognizing the wife of the founder of the company. The cheated wife immediately realized how her hubby had been promoted. In the evening, Anthony came home from work and immediately tried to embrace and kiss Dorothy, but she pulled away and told him she knew all about him and the boss's wife. Anthony went pale, but after a moment's pause, he gathered his thoughts and began again to convince his wife that she was wrong. Without saying a word, the woman turned on the video. There was no point in denying it, and Anthony admitted his guilt and then began even threatening her. He said that if she told anyone, her boss's wife would immediately kick her out of the company with bad references. Dorothy only laughed out loud and said that she had sent the racy video to her boss back in the morning for his family collection. Anthony didn't know what to say and gulped air like a fish thrown on dry land, whereas Dorothy immediately rolled out a suitcase of his belongings and told him to get out of her apartment and out of her life. The next day, Anthony was fired, and Dorothy was appointed to take his place because she had all the competence and experience she needed. A few days later, the young woman found Kate and took her away from her drunken stepfather. After going through all the authorities, Dorothy managed to get custody of her, and Kate finally found a warm and clean home, the care and attention of the real mother. And another year later, Dorothy met a decent man who never told her about passionate love, did not shower her with bouquets of scarlet roses, did not whisper sweet words in her ear, but he was caring, attentive, kind, respected Dorothy, and was on the same wavelength with her.